It's used in more than half the abortions in the United States. So if he decides no, even in states where abortion is totally legal, they will not have access. Is that right?
The latest chapter of the right wing's fight against reproductive rights has to do with abortions that are done with the abortion pill. And now anti-abortion doctors are asking a Trump-appointed conservative judge to undo the Food and Drug Administration's approval of the drug that is used to terminate pregnancies. Now, they made that approval back in 2000, and the thing that's incredibly concerning about this is that while it will definitely have an impact on states that want to restrict abortions, if the religious groups get their way, if these conservative doctors get their way, it will have an impact on states where abortion is completely legal, completely legal. And this is all done by design. Now, with that said, let's take a look at the next video where a reporter from The Nation, her name is Amy Littlefield, explains in detail what this means for the future of reproductive rights in America should these conservative doctors get their way.
It would have a catastrophic impact, specifically in states where abortion is legal. I mean, we're talking about this hearing taking place in a state that's not even going to be impacted by it because abortion is already banned in Texas. And so this would reverberate across states like where I'm sitting in Massachusetts, New York, California, states where abortion is legal. The abortion pill mifepristone is the first of 2 drugs used in the standard of care for medication abortion. And so what providers across the country have been preparing to do in preparation for this ruling is to start providing misoprostol only abortions. So medication abortion using only the second drug in the protocol. That still works, but it's less effective. It's about 88% effective according to a recent study versus up to 99% when it's used with mifepristone. And it causes more intense suffering, more cramping, more prolonged bleeding.
Yeah, more suffering, more pain, more prolonged bleeding. That's not the bug, that's the feature. Let's just be absolutely clear about that. The punishment is the whole point of the anti-abortion movement, of the individuals who feel that they're entitled to tell women what they can and can't do with their bodies. It's about the punishment. It's about the pain. It's about retaliating toward women who have decided that, they don't need to abide by certain conservative standards when it comes to the way that they live their lives. They don't have to have sex only for the purpose of reproducing. It's all about punishment. It's all about control. The fact that women are gonna suffer even more as a result of this potentially happening, this judge potentially scrapping the FDA's approval of the abortion pill. The whole point is to, of course, scare women, control women, punish women, plain and simple. Now, we should learn a little more about the judge here because it is concerning that he is not only a Trump-appointed conservative judge. Based on his previous decisions, it is abundantly clear that he is also an activist judge. So who is this guy? Well, it's US District Judge Matthew Kasparian, and he's a deeply conservative jurist with a proclivity for siding with plaintiffs looking to roll back reproductive and LGBTQ rights or block key Biden administration policies. In fact, the first hearing where he's gonna hear arguments from both sides on this case happened today. But he actually took a pretty unusual step to conceal that information from the general public, probably because he was acutely aware of the fact that this case is going to draw condemnation from American citizens. There might be some protesters who show up. So like the typical coward that he has decided to essentially conceal the information about today being the first day that the hearings would take place. And as CNN reported, the judge held a private call last Friday with the case's lawyers and scheduled the hearing for today. The call was not publicly noticed on the case's docket, nor did the judge issue a public order announcing that Wednesday's hearing had been scheduled. The case is not under seal. So again, it's highly unusual for a judge to do this, but he did it because he doesn't want to have to deal with anyone expressing their dissent, anyone even expressing their political speech, their displeasure at this nonsense. Now, the judge also told lawyers that he didn't want the hearing announced until last night in order to avoid disruptions, again, meaning protests. The judge also took the bench back in 2019. As I mentioned earlier, he was appointed by Donald Trump. Turns out that presidential elections do matter, especially when it comes to our judicial system, because presidents get to nominate whoever they want for federal judgeships, for the Supreme Court. So these are the chickens coming home to roost for all of us. And for anyone who thought that it didn't matter if you elected Trump versus Hillary Clinton, well, here's one way where it did matter. Now, what kind of history does this judge have? Okay, he was appointed back in 2019. He unfortunately was confirmed by the Senate. And he is known for essentially making Texas, the state of Texas where he's based, a legal graveyard for Joe Biden's policies. Which is why conservatives, by the way, have decided to file their challenge against the FDA in the state of Texas. They did that purposely, knowing that they were going to deal with an incredibly friendly conservative judge. The group that brought the medication abortion lawsuit, the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, incorporated in Amarillo a few months before they filed the suit, according to documents from the Texas Secretary of State's office. The judge here is the only federal district judge seated in Amarillo, in the Amarillo division of the US District of Northern Texas. And he's definitely an activist judge. So his sister, for instance, her name is Jennifer Griffith. She detailed her brother's long history of being an anti-abortion advocate. And she also believes that it was fate that brought the abortion case before him. She says, quote, "I feel like he's made for this. He is exactly where he needs to be." I mean, lots of red flags. This is certainly foreshadowing when it comes to what his decision is likely going to be on this. Now, he worked for a legal group that represented the religious right. That's another red flag. But let me give you more. The judge put on hold the Biden administration's attempt to end the so-called Remain in Mexico immigration program. He has overseen Texas cases challenging vaccine mandates, the gender identity guidance issued by the US Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and the Biden administration's limits of the use or on the use of COVID-19 relief funds for tax cuts. He challenged that. So he thought it was totally fine to take taxpayer money that was specifically allocated as emergency relief for COVID. He thought it was totally fine to take that and use it for tax cuts. Incredible. And he also blocked the Biden administration from enforcing new rules that sought to protect transgender Americans from discrimination in healthcare. So if you are someone who identifies as transgender, you need to get treatment, you need to get care, and a hospital or a particular doctor discriminates against you, this judge thinks that is totally fine. In other words, things don't look good when it comes to this case. Now, the reporter from The Nation that we heard from earlier argues that the FDA could just ignore this judge's decision on this case. I don't know how true that is. I don't know if the FDA is actually willing to do that. What I do know, without a shadow of a doubt, is that regardless of what abortion restriction laws pass in this country, regardless of which, provisions right-wingers find a way to get rid of, which avenues in which people can get safe abortions they get rid of, it doesn't matter. If a woman is desperate and needs to get an abortion, she will find a way to do it. And this is likely going to push certain women, typically women who are living in poverty, who are particularly desperate in situations like this, to go through avenues that are much less safe, that put their lives at risk, meaning that more people will die as a result of the so-called pro-life advocates out there. In reality, they're not pro-life at all. There are now endless stories, a steady drip of stories involving children dying as a result of various companies exploiting them while breaking child labor laws, by the way. I mean, you're hearing stories about children getting injured at meat packing plants. I don't hear a damn conservative, certainly not a single conservative doctor complaining about that. Because it's not about saving children, it's not about saving lives. They don't care at all. It's about power, it's about control, and it's about punishment. The fact that women who might want to get a medical abortion through the abortion pill, the fact that they might not have the option anymore to use mifepristone and can only rely on one of those abortion pills, which will make the abortion more complicated and more painful, they love that. They love the punishment. That is what this is about. Don't make a mistake and think that they're actually genuinely concerned about human lives here.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.